We're here with Umar and Liam from Muzo, and we wanted to talk to these guys because they are new entrants into the medical cannabis market. And I wanted to find out from them what it takes to go out and source the products that we are seeing have being put into all of the clinics and pharmacies in the UK. So, without further ado, you guys, what's your story? What's your background, and how did you get into the medical cannabis space?
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you for having us on first and foremost. Yeah, it's quite an interesting story, really. So me and Umar both come from quite different backgrounds. There's always been that connection, that kind of cannabis connection, let's say, in most of our adult lives. Uh, so me personally, I was in private equity, around 2018 when sort of medical cannabis legalization was bubbling away. Got involved in a cultivation product on the kind of financial side, and through that, obviously fell in love with the industry. It was something I've massively wanted to be a part of. So yeah, come away from that and started working, with the knowledge I had at the time as a consultant for some of the other brands that we've seen in Europe. So helping them build out their supply chain, selecting genetics, selecting strain, going through the GMP and GDP processes, registration. So, yeah, as you can imagine, built up. um,
You should at doing paperwork then, Liam.
I wouldn't say very good. I'm good at reluctantly doing paperwork, but yeah, it gets done. It gets done. But yeah, the obviously
You do hours.
the regulatory aspects and the compliance aspects are obviously quite a tough thing to navigate in this industry. And yeah, for me, it was having that kind of hands-on experience, making the mistake, paying the price. But yeah, obviously second mover advantage, obviously gives you a lot of benefits. So, uh, yeah, and then, we kind of, got to a point where, we saw a huge gap in the market in terms of quality. And obviously, for me, it was just sort of consulting for companies, didn't really have a say in what actually happened. So, yeah, sort of prime time for me and Umar to kind of reconnect. He had his own things, which you'll go into now, what he was sort of having away with. To basically start our own brand, put our own fund into it, build out our own supply chain, just as we had before. So yeah, that was around 18 months ago. And you're probably asking, why did it take so long to get to market? But yeah, it was exactly that, just to find the right products. We spent a lot of time in all of the producing countries, Portugal, South Africa, uh, UK, Spain, Canada, and yeah, we went through probably close to 100 producers, a huge amount of batches to really nail down something that we feel tick the boxes for us in terms of product quality, but also had the stability and consistency there to for something that we're going to introduce into the market. And it works for patients. It's something that we can supply for a long period of time as well. We had a kind of snapshot. That was the kind of journey for me up until now. And yeah, obviously we've launched within the last month. So yeah, really exciting time for us.
Great. And Umar, I mean, the way we met was through your one of your previous companies, which was Country Boys CBD. So I know when we saw you at the farm, you had this hemp production.
Yeah.
Tell us tell us a little bit more about your journey.
Yeah. So my journey was honestly, it was big advocate for, medical cannabis, spent some time with family out in California. So, in that market where it's like you've got that medical slash rec market. And when I got back, got really inspired and I was like, hey, I went on to online and one day I saw, you can grow hemp and cannabis, but I didn't really understand what I was doing. I was like, okay, look, there's all these licenses. And my partner, Will, which you met Will. And, we split. We were like, okay, we found some farmers. They're willing to grow some hemp. Let's just go apply for a license. And next thing you know, we, get our hemp license. And from there, we were like, okay, you know what, let's, sell CBD. So we got into the, hemp game and CBD game. So the company was called Tool and Hemp Company, and the CBD company was called Country Boys Collective. And our goal was always, hey, look, if we can go from hemp into medical cannabis, that'd be amazing. But being entrepreneurs and not really understanding. It was really early days. It was about what, 2018, 19. Things started popping off on the legalization side. We didn't really understand the costs involved in turning something like a hemp farm into a well, you don't realize until you're in there. You're like, oh, 30 million pound you need, or like measures ridiculous amounts. You see how much like all these downgrade.
It's a lot stricter when it comes to obviously having a medication out in circulation. It's way more regulation boxes that you've got to tick.
Claims and always from even people who use CBD. They were like, people coming to be like, hey, this has solved so many issues for me. And luckily at the time, before this whole novel foods thing came in, it was like it was like pretty unregulated in that space, and it was seen as a food supplement, which I'd agree with. And it just got to a stage where I was like, we were doing the hemp stuff. We grew, I think, over 100 acres of hemp. I remember you guys coming down to the bar. It
Was so impressive with the really impressive setup that you had there and the new cold pressed oil that you were doing. Really, really nice.
So we had like the cold press oil that we had our own. We were literally the first cold pressed oil in CBD UK hemp brand at that time.
Farm as well, Neil. They had a big ethos about carbon-free farming.
And regeneracy, the whole regenerative farming.
Regen farming, yeah, we did so many little experiments.
Everyone's doing now by the looks of it.
No, regen farming is like the way forward. No till, what's called no till.
Yeah, I mean, sustainability is everything now, isn't it? I mean, in most industries, that sustainability is so key, and yeah, obviously like big carbon for like hemp, it makes a lot of sense.
And then
It prompts my next question. Sorry, Umar, but we're talking about the CBD industry, and obviously the CBD. Well, I say obviously for people who don't realize or know, it's a heavily regulated industry. Despite it being what essentially a food supplement, it's still heavily regulated, which then begs the question: having experienced the CBD industry, what were your frustrations, and perhaps Liam, as coming at it from a patient, what were the things that you were frustrated with? Obviously, to immerse yourself into the cannabis industry after the experience with CBD, you must have been frustrated by something, right? So what was it?
In the medical world, I suppose what gives us the biggest confidence to kind of do what we do is, it's no secret that there's, millions of self-medicating people in this country, right? I think NHS have even officially put out a stat, I think it was 1.8 million or 1.7 million people that told their GP, I find cannabis illegal for something they're actually eligible to get it, on prescription, right?
Yeah.
So then you begs the question, why are these people not, transitioning into the medical realm? I think some of it is exactly what Sophie touched on. It's just unawareness. They had CBD kind of rammed down in their faces over the last few years by a lot of operators, and then they realize it's available and they'll try it. And our belief is the thing that's holding people back is the quality. I think there is perceived quality.
I think with that though, I think a lot of people that are still sort of street people, they're almost defiant to just go along with it because it's like, oh, I'm not getting medical. That like, why the mat? But it's freaky. But why wouldn't you if you are genuinely using that plant to help your life and better your life and be a better person? Why wouldn't you legally go and get your hands on that so you can freely use that plant without any worries of luck coming down on you?
No, I equally from that background, I've had the years of, worrying about what I've got and where I take it. And, the reason why I have it is because it does help me day to day, and it is a staple in my life. And yeah, like I know a lot of people do resonate with that. It's something they've had, day to day. And they've had this sort of anxiety built up around it, right? And that is really what it lifts. Once you come out of that world into the medical world, it lifts all of that anxiety. You really do feel like you have a right to have it, which is, for me, it was a massive game changer. And I'd like to think it'd be the same for other people. But then again, you know, again, just being, you know, if I'm going to be completely honest and transparent, you know, to someone that has been around cannabis for a long time, you know, I feel like we've got a very good benchmark for perceived quality. You know, you've got DMP quality, which is, you know, more focused on micros and things like that. But then, you know, you speak to anyone that actually consumes it and you talk to them about quality, they're more, you know, their mind goes to flavor, aroma, periods. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, you know, what we're trying to do is meet in the middle there, you know. So we've got, you know, compliant flour that is closer to what, you know, someone would expect if they're going to hear the word quality in the traditional setting, right?
Well, well,
So, like,
and that I've got a question for you there, Liam. Sorry for to jump in, but you as a patient, it was that lack of perceived quality. But what you were saying earlier was that you then went on this journey, and it sounds like it was a pretty lengthy journey because you named a lot of countries. So what was the process that you guys went through in order to find a partner, a supplier, someone who could give you that quality? What were the criteria? Where did you go? Who did you visit? And how did you know?
we got a bit of a yeah, no, absolutely. So we have, I suppose, like a policy, right? You know, we don't, I suppose, introduce anything into the supply chain that we haven't, I suppose, been hands-on with, you know, and seen ourselves and got a really good kind of understanding of it. And it is literally, as you say, you know, we're the guys that are jumping on plane, you know, we're sort of, led on journey. You know, it's amazing, don't get me wrong, but, you know, a lot of the times, you know, you've got other things to do. Yeah, you know, it does become quite grueling, to be honest with you. Uh, but yeah, like, it was just that, like, we knew the quality was out there. You know, there must be a breeder that's got a good genetic that's given it to one of these licenses that, you know, must be out there. Might not be the cheapest, you know, it might not be, you know, somebody might have overlooked it because of commercials, but you know, that was really the mission. And we were willing to spend a lot of time and our own money to find it, which is what we did. And, you know, lo and behold, it was in the country furthest away. And, you know, I've had always. But yeah, even Canada, you know, we've done East Coast to West Coast. We've you know, had the opportunity to review batches from most of the LPs or a good chunk of the LPs. And yeah, we just feel like we found the perfect partner in like our pharmaceuticals. So, you know, we are sort of, you know, directly partnered with them. You know, we're the brand, we're the producer. We work sort of exclusively together in order to bring these products to market, and we look to scale together and just build on the quality together, rather than just sort of taking bits and bobs from different, you know, where we've seen, you know, that can kind of cause the problems. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, yeah, it's a lengthy process. It was a lengthy process, and yeah, you know, obviously we're looking for things like, you know, the obvious stuff, you know, the experience, the kind of flavor, but then obviously you're getting into the kind of nitty gritty of things, which is the stability. You know, we have to look at the micros. We have to look at, you know, the consistency of the batches. So, you know, it's not just looking at one batch. You know, we have to look at 3, 4, 5 batches. You know, which can take quite easily a year. You know, before you really, you know, sort of feel confident in something. So yeah, there's a lot of things that kind of go into it. And yeah,
And that difference between the well, a common criticism, if you like, of some of the suppliers has been that those cultivators, they've got the recreational market, which is their priority, and the medical cannabis market is a sort of secondary income for them. And then that's why traditionally they haven't given it maybe the priority or the making sure the quality is as high as medical patients expect. So what did you guys put in place to make sure that those standards are adhered to and everything?
Being new, what it is it's like, you know, we've just gone through the process of, you know, just we genuinely want to, we don't, so our process, as simple as it is if the flower's good, we'll, you know, come and visit your facility. But there's been many times that, you know, we've turned up to an LP, they probably know us and they don't like us so that much, and we'll just be a bit snobby about it, about the product. I feel like a lot of companies don't even bother, you know, actually check.
They've been on the feedback, yeah.
Yeah, and it is
yeah, no, to add as well, I think like one of the main things, right, is the genetics. No, like, it's something that we see in Canada, and we're not, it's not to knock Canada. I think, the fact that they have the infrastructure and the framework there is the only way we're able to do what we do here, right? It's a great sort of harmonization. However, spending a lot of time in Canada, I noticed that what they grow for and the kind of what they're trying to appeal to is very different to what we look for in Europe. You got Canada, everything's kind of dialed in for THC. Nothing really sells unless it's 35% or something crazy.
Which isn't even realistic.
Which is, in the same way you talk to dispensaries, you talk to, tollers, guys out in Canada, and you kind of get an idea of what it is there, what moves for them, in the rec market, and all they really care about from what, all of these kind of things. So it's a bit of a shock when we go out to them and we're like, tell people what the terpene.
You think the UK have actually been a really spoiled market when it comes? You get everything. We get the American, the Canadian, the Thai, the European. Like, we get our hands on everything. And I do feel like, what do you feel if you would say any terp? What terp is dominating the scene right now?
I'd say that I'm going to butcher how you actually say it because I struggle to say any of them, to be honest with you. But it's the Carolipoli. The sours and the gases were starting to come back, basically.
Yeah. That red terps is literally taken over everything.
I mean, flavor, ZZ, candies, like, I feel like, that sort of candy sour is kind of where rec is, any brand that California, you're one or the other.
Saturated. I'm waiting for the change, to be honest.
Yeah, no, we'll hopefully bring you, those kind of, terpene profiles. And even going back to that, like, me and myself, got a family out in California, so I've been there like 5-6 times, so I fully understand like the levels. And it's like, Liam is, he's experienced similar kind of quality. And even when I went out to Canada, I was just very surprised at how much different in quality is compared to California.
Yeah, overwhelming, isn't it? Like,
Yeah,
it's completely different. Like exactly what Liam said. It's like, they dial in for THC, whereas, the Americans really dial in for, terpene, flavor, different type of effects, entourage effects. So everyone's, every country has their own way of doing stuff. And we're just hoping, look, like, we're with, Dicar Pharmaceuticals, who really understand the mission to really develop, great strains that, people like, Liam and other patients will fully enjoy, and it can compete with what they're getting on the black market, and it will help promote the actual general image of the medical market and say, hey, look, it's not all what's the best way to put it, it's not all trash, or it's not bad. It's actually brands out here that really care about quality, and they really want to make a change. So
yeah, I definitely see the quality has improved massively in the cannabis since I've been a patient and getting prescriptions. The quality's been going up every time that I get a parcel through the door. But me and Neil have had this conversation many a times. Is the market's so saturated with so much stuff now, but that I think after access route becomes a lot easier for people, and there becomes a massive increase in patient numbers that happen, I think there will be like the 10 OG Donny strains that just stay.
It's all this. It'll be Northern Lights and White Widow still. Yeah. No, brings me on to sort of a couple of the final questions. It is a very saturated market. We know it's a very heavily regulated industry. That means you're not allowed to actually market to patients. So for doctors, um, uh, uh, w- who are you supplying through? Which pharmacies? How do they know that they can prescribe Muzo?
yeah. So that's the same thing. When we kind of what we spoke about earlier, we kind of purely see ourselves, our sort of expertise, let's say, purely on the supply chain. We want to work with partners or distribution, manufacturing, and things like that. And so we work with Zeal Pharmaceuticals, Zeal Pharma. Okay. In the UK, fantastic partner. We outsource majority of the UK operations to them. purely because they're a lot better at it than we ever could, you know. We just sort of feel like, yeah, they're a great partner. So yeah, with regards to, you know, the conversations that we have with pharmacies and clinics, we just direct them over to the guys at Seal, and they can handle, you know, any sort of queries on that side. But yeah, 3 products that we've launched, 3 flower products. You know, we try to kind of aim it sort of, you know, sort of daytime and nighttime, and then something in between as a kind of starting point. You know, all kind of covering the boxes that we ticked earlier and the sort of things we look at when building out the supply chain. All strains are non-irradiated as well. That's also another thing that we're very conscious of.
I was just about to ask you that question. So great.
Yeah, I'm a big believer on, you know, minimal processing as possible. You know, and that is
As close to the plant as it can be plant, yeah?
exactly right. And, you know, even on the harvest, you know, like we don't, you know, we've sort of scheduled the harvest out in Canada. So it's not like, you know, we're growing 100 kilos. Some of it sits there for 3 months and cut, you know, fresh harvest, you know, regular cycles. And, you know, we kind of scale it up to the demand.
But to be expecting any stale buds coming from Muzo then, Gav?
Yeah, if one does slip through the net, you know who to come to, because I mean, when we build out the team, you know, we are personally verifying every bat before it goes out, you know.
Amazing. That's actually really cool. And that would make really good content as well, guys.
Yeah. We to be fair, we've got a nice little stockpile of stuff that we should launch out with, you know, on socials and stuff. But yeah, again, like, you know, we're not looking to take over the world or the market. You know, we've you know, thankfully got to this point without taking in, you know, any sort of funding or investment. So, you know, we just want to bring in good product and the patients that it works for, and you know, that want to use them. You know, we're here for them. You know, we're not looking to please everybody or, you know, take over every patient. You know, we just feel like there is a portion of the market that's very similar to us, and that is exactly who we kind of bring this in for. And anyone else that it works for, you know.
Fantastic. All right. Well, before we wrap this up, if it just Umar, you know, what the plans for the future? What does the future have in store for Muzo? Where do you want to take this? For a start, you know, is this UK only, or is this for the whole of Europe?
The goals for Muzo, I'll be honest with you, is like, you know, we want to keep it UK focused at the moment. We really want to just develop that, you know, that nice, you know, balance of like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strain. We're not sure of how many, but it really depends on which ones perform really well, which ones works with the patients. And we just want to build out that catalog of really good products that, you know, have quality behind them, that people like me and Liam actually approve of, and we can QC our own batches. And
Yeah, main focus for us is building out the range, the portfolio. So, you know, I suppose over the next 12 months will be a huge emphasis on, you know, back out to, you know, Canada. We've got some genetics that we're going to be implementing into the facility as well, that we have sourced, which we're really excited about. So yeah, a lot of it's really going to be kind of behind the scenes supply chain stuff. And then, yeah, maybe sort of towards, you know, as we sort of get into next year, we'll probably look at a kind of campaign for like awareness, because yeah, as again, you know, we're not looking to go down in terms of pharmacy clinic, but I feel like we will have a budget there where we can kind of hopefully help everyone in a sense. You know, we understand, you know, it's going to put, you know, direct people to hopefully, you know, wherever it's best suited to them. But yeah, we've got an idea to do like a real drive in terms of just spreading awareness and, yeah, just sort of educational platforms and things.
I think if you guys could nail down in doing a high street walk in and get cannabis the same day job, you would be doing something different that no one else has done.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's all these, and you know, the market is moving at a horrendous, you know, extremely quickly, you know, year on year. So, you know, what plans, everyone's plans are for next year could quite easily change, you know. So, I mean, we're quite nimble, but yeah, as I say, like our core focus is just building out the supply chain, building out the product range that we have, and keeping patients and, you know, the pharmacies and clinics that we work with happy.
Cool. So just last question then, if there are doctors, clinics, pharmacies out there who want to get in contact, where should they go?
Yeah, so you can contact us by email, so contact@muzohealth.com, candid.com. Me and Umar are both active on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with us there and shoot us a message. We're happy to assist with any questions and share any further information. And yeah, with regards to the product, I mean, there's information available on all the usual channels that doctors would go down to start looking at products and the kind of specs around them and things like that. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, look, thanks for your time, guys. It's been really informative. Thanks for being so open and sharing so much information. And wishing you the best of luck.
One thing I'd like to say as well, I think, like what you guys are doing, just having a platform where, companies are able to be transparent and let, the people that are interested into kind of, the ins and outs of things, I think is great. I think there's to be more people doing stuff like this for sure.
Yeah, we Neil and Sophie, very soon.
Been on a journey, but we've got more journeys to go on.
100%. If we're doing any events and stuff like that, we'll be obviously getting invite to you guys ASAP, and it'd be good to meet up.
I've already got a few ideas that I want to put to you guys just from this cause. So yeah, let's talk again real soon.
Well, this is an idea factory, so like honestly, anything that you want to fling over, we're all this.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Nice.